Hello everyone, so welcome to today's video. We are doing a summertime makeup routine for the look that I'm wearing right now, and I am so excited to share with you my more minimal, less approach to makeup for the summertime because I do love wearing makeup. I put makeup on every single day and I don't skip any steps, and I just love coming into my beauty space and doing my makeup from start to finish. And today it's going to be just lighter, thinner amounts, light layers, just more fresh, dewy complexion, and just more minimal on the eye. But the formulas and the colors that I'm using really add that impact and that sort of more sophisticated glow to the eyes without being super glittery, without even being a lot of work and taking a lot of steps. It literally is just a quad, and I only use 3 of those shades in that quad, and it's one of my absolute favorite quads that I just reach for every time I want to get ready quickly, when I don't have a lot of time to spend on my makeup, or if we decide to go somewhere kind of last minute and I want to throw something together on the eyes so that I look more put together. I always reach for this, and it's my Surratt Beyond Beige quad. I love these colors, the formulas, and you will see that as we get to the tutorial portion for the eyes. It's just easy and effortless, and the way these come together, it always looks good. And I did the exact same look yesterday, and so I thought I'd do it again today since I loved it so much, and I wanted to share that with you today on camera. So that's what we're doing for this entire look here. So if you want to see how I did it, then just keep watching. So the first thing that I did for this dewy, fresh, just lightweight complexion was start off with a glowy base. So I do have some skincare on, and I do have a little extra moisturizer on, just because my skin has been a little bit on the dry side due to sunburn and sun exposure over the last several weeks. So the product that I use for that glow is the Maybelline 4-in-1 Perfector, and I have the shade Fair Light. It's a 4-in-1 product that is supposed to kind of do it all: prime, conceal, highlight, and be your BB cream. So I'm gonna just take a little bit of this, and as you can see just by swiping it, it does have a subtle tint to where it sort of brings down a little bit of that natural rosiness. And I have some darkness here from where I had a really bad sunburn that has now become more of a tan. So I've got some very uneven skin tone right now. So that's my fault for allowing myself to get sunburned. So then I take a brush. This is the Heavenly Luxe brush from It Cosmetics. It's the double-ended one. It actually is a fantastic brush to do every single step of my routine, from base products to highlighter, even concealer. I can sculpt with this with my contour. It's a really great brush. A little bit on the pricey side, but considering that I can do everything with it, I feel like it's worth the investment and that price point. Evens out the complexion, and it adds a little bit of dewiness, a little bit of moisture, and you can kind of see how that sort of reflects a little bit with the light. And I will use a little bit of powder as needed in certain areas, and we'll get to that here in a moment. But I do want to take care of the under eye area, and I don't use a ton of this. It's just a thin layer to kind of get me going. So what I've been doing lately is mixing some concealers. My normal concealers, for example, this one that I'm using today is from Armani. This is the Luminous Silk Concealer in the shade 3. This is what my skin tone was before getting sun, and it is a little bit too light, and it is very brightening, and I do like that still, but I need it to be just a bit darker. So instead of buying new ones in a shade or two darker, I'm just mixing things that I have in my collection that are a little bit darker. So this is the Rose Ink Hydrating Concealer in the shade LX030, which is a little dark, but together it's a perfect combination for me right now. And apply that right in through the inner part of the eye where I want the most brightness, which is where my circles are the darkest. And then I take a little bit of the Rose Ink and just do a dot or two. So I tend to blend this concealer out with my beauty sponge. This is from Sonia Kashuk. And I'm going to use that sort of angle flat side with the point to blend all of this in. And so once I have that blended, I do take a little bit through like my brow bone and my lids, because I do have some veining there. And I will take my sponge and I will pull that concealer down just a little bit so that it's not just brightness right under the eye and then darker everywhere else. And I take some of that concealer mixture as well through the center of my forehead to sort of create some balance in the chin. And I just kind of pull that down, and it allows me to have a more fresh and lightweight feel on the face without having to use an actual foundation. Then I'm using the Huda Easy Bake Powder to set my under eye area. I really enjoy this setting powder. It sets, it perfects, and it makes everything just more seamless from concealer to foundation, and I really enjoy this shade, which is called Pound Cake. So the other set that I did the other day when I recreated this look was take a little bit of a setting powder. This is actually a soft matte. It's full of product on the back. It's so disgusting. This is the Soft Matte Advanced Perfecting Powder in the shade Cove from NARS. It's the one that looks like a very thin disc, very different packaging, and I enjoy that. This one actually still works for my skin tone now, and I do go back in with that same It Cosmetics brush, and I just take a little bit of that, and I just go over my entire face, because remember that 4-in-1 Perfector from Maybelline does leave a lot of dewiness and radiance to the skin, and it's kind of like their version of the Hollywood Flawless filter from Charlotte Tilbury, which I really like, but I feel like that one from Charlotte gives me a lot more glow, so I like to use that under foundation, whereas this one from Maybelline can be like the main product of my face routine, if that makes sense. Now I do want to add a little bit of bronzer, and I'm going to use the liquid contour from Milani. This is in a shade called Honey, and it is very golden and very bronze. So for me, it works as, and you will see as I apply this, it works more of a bronzing step for me. So I just take a little applicator and I just kind of, I add a bunch of this just to get my face to match my arms, which is pretty dark at the moment for me. And again, that same brush, we're just using that one brush to do the majority of our steps today. I'm gonna just take a little bit more up through the higher points of my face. I'm gonna skip the contour as well today, just because I don't really feel like doing too much. And I just kind of want to get through this pretty quickly. Then to kind of set this, again, keeping the layers thin, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of powder bronzer. This is the Airbrush bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury, and I use the shade Fair, and it is pretty light, much lighter than the Milani, but I'm gonna take just a little bit of it with the same brush and just kind of pat to kind of bring down any sort of creamy looking finish from using those cream products. I just want to tone it down just so that as I am going about my day, if I'm outside, you know, sweating, it doesn't look too like oily looking. And it's just a thin layer of bronzer just to kind of help everything, you know, just look more set. Products for the brows is the Precisely My Brow from Benefit. This is shade 3 that I'm using currently at the moment. And I do fill in my whole brow with that. And then I do a little bit of the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen in the areas that I have actual bald spots where there isn't a hair growing. I will do a hair-like stroke, which is why this is such a good product for me to really create the effect of a hair without actually having it. And then I set everything with the Too Faced Fluff and Hold. This is like extreme hold hairspray in a tube form for the brows. It's incredible. I use other products and I just keep coming back to this because this gives me the hold that I need, and those are the products. And I'm going to list all my shades in all of these or in these 2 products down below in the description box with everything else. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I am back. I have done my brows and I need to do my lips just because I kind of want to get that going and then just kind of see what I want to do and what direction I want to go in with the eyes. So I'm going to start with the Makeup Forever Artist Pencil in Wherever Walnut. Okay, so that is a little bit of a kind of deeper nude color. And so I'm going to be using a few products that I talked about in my current favorites video, and that's the Huda Beauty Lip Blush. So now that that's been wiped off, I'm going with a little bit of a nude to sort of lighten this a bit. This is from the Sephora collection, and I just love this shade. It's that perfect nude with a bit of pink. And I'm going to use the Pillow Talk Matte Beauty Blush Wand from Charlotte Tilbury, and I'm going to just use a tiny little bit of this. And I do put some of it onto like a makeup palette because I don't want a ton of products. I want to keep, like I said before, the layers pretty thin. So I like to use the end of my brush to sort of tap a little bit of this shade right on the higher points of my face, and then I'm going right back in with my It Cosmetics brush, and I'm just gonna tap that out. And this blush is incredibly beautiful. It's very easy to blend. It's not matte and dry looking, but it's not shimmery and luminous. It's like a beautiful natural finish that just sort of gives you that perfected look to the cheek. There's just something very blurring about this formula that I just can't get enough of. And I absolutely love it. And I have a dry patch right through here that really is annoying me. So if you can tell, that's what that is. It is what it is. So I'm gonna just take a little bit more and I'm just gonna blend that in, and I'm keeping it pretty light. Okay, so for a little bit of highlight, I wanted something that would look more like it's melted into the skin. I don't want to do anything that's super luminous and wet looking, because once my oils start to kind of break through the foundations and the concealers, the powders, all the steps that I've done, it's going to look even more noticeable and more highlighted in that area. And I just want to keep things a little bit lighter. So I like this formula from NARS. This is from their holiday palette that came out last year. It's the Rising Star Cheek Palette. And the highlighter is just beautiful. It's this one right here. It is incredible. I love this formula. It's like a gelée formula where you got to really dig your brush in there to pick up the product. But the way these, even the blushes, lay on the skin, it's out of this world. It's just beautiful. I can't get enough of it. So I do like this palette. I will say another option if you don't have this, or if it's not even available anymore, because I didn't check to see if this is still available. But another option if you don't have this is the Hourglass palettes. I have a couple. I have a couple of their Edit palettes. These are incredible. No one does powders like this, like Hourglass. They just they nail it every time. And some of my favorites, you will see like palettes like this. The setup this way is really pretty. You get that glow, but it's not blinding. It's not wet looking. And there's just something very special about the Hourglass formula. So you could use something like an Hourglass formula for this step, but I'm going to go in with the NARS. And I'm going to pick up quite a bit and load up my brush and tap off the excess. And I will show you, when you just lightly go over the skin, you get a bit of glow. And remember, I try to keep things a little bit lighter just because I have that glow from the Maybelline product underneath. And then another thing that I did the other day that I really felt like made a difference with the longevity was using a little bit of a light layer of a powder blush over this Pillow Talk from Charlotte Tilbury. And the one in my collection that I felt like was the closest match was from Too Faced. These are the Cloud Crush Blurring Blush in the shade called Head in the Clouds. So it's very in line with that Pillow Talk shade that is in the matte liquid formula. So I'm going to take a little bit of this and just lightly go over the liquid blush, just a pinch. And I can do this either before or after my highlight, but today it's going to be after. And it's just going to elevate that bit of pink just a bit more. So even though I'm going to do something just lighter on the eye, I still want to use primer because, again, the hot months, being outside, it's going to happen where you might have some creasing. I like to use the Paint Pot from MAC. This is in the shade called Painterly. And I use this every single time I do my eye look. And I use just a little bit. So I apply it with one finger and then I use another clean finger to blend this out. I'm going to use my quad from Surratt. This is in the shade called Beyond Beige. And these are the colors. These I reach for all the time when I want to get ready pretty quickly, when I don't have a lot of time, if I want something very minimal, but I want that pretty sort of effortless look to the eye that I find so sophisticated, so beautiful, so easy to do that it looks great on the eye. And I'm going to show you exactly how I like to use these 4 eyeshadows. I'm going to start with this lighter shade. It does have some shimmer and it is like a ivory kind of color. I'm going to take a little bit of that and just dust that right over my lid all the way up to the brow. With the same brush, I'm going to go down to the shade down here. This one is called Cove. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it is like a salmony warm shade with a golden sheen to it. You can use these wet or dry, and the formula is just a dream to work with. So I took the same color, or the same brush, sorry. Look, I got a hair there. So I took the same brush and applied this all over the lid. And then once I was done with that, I took the brush and I just used the edge of it to blend the edges a bit. Same color, different brush. I'm going to just pick up a little bit more of that and run that on my lower lash line, using just kind of like the edge of my brush. Then with a smaller detail brush, this is a 204 from BK Beauty, I'm going to take the dark shade, which is called Brun Noir. So it's kind of like a really dark, deep brown, almost black. So like a black brown. And it's very pigmented. So I'm going to take a little bit of that and just kind of work that into my brush on a paper towel so that I don't have a bunch kind of falling out. And I'm going to take this on my lower lash line first. And on this outer part, I'm going to sort of extend a little bit past my outer corner because that's going to help me create more of a sort of cat eye, but it's not going to be like very intense. It's going to be a little softer. So basically imagining that this lower lash line here on the outer corner kind of extends just a little bit up. Do the same thing on the other eye. Then I'm going to go back in with that same eyeshadow brush that I used for that salmony tan shade. And I'm going to buff the edges of that color just a little bit. It really doesn't need a lot of work because it's very easy and soft when it goes on, but it creates that impact that is, it's just why I absolutely love this formula in this palette. So then I'm going to take that same detail brush with the same dark brown color, and I'm going to stamp this on the upper lash line and just sort of kind of creating a bit of a connection between where it ends to my lash line. So like I said before, like a cat eye shape. And I'm going to go all the way from probably, I would say 3/4 of the way out. I think the trick for me, honestly, is getting the sort of winged part to match, because I can do one eye really nice and great, and I'm like, man, I got that the first try, and then this eye, or the opposite eye, just ends up giving me more problems. So I'm surprised that this isn't going to take me that long to actually do, which is good because I have the camera rolling and I don't want to take a lot of time. So I like to kind of clean up a little bit, taking a flat brush, like a concealer style brush, to just go underneath with a little bit of foundation, a little extra concealer. I have a little bit of extra concealer from yesterday, and since I did the same thing yesterday, I might as well just use it. I know, gross. I don't even know why I told you that. Then the last part of this look is some inner corner highlight and a little bit more on the brow bone. I'm going to use a Reference number 3 brush, which is super, super tiny. I'm going to go in with that light shade. And that's going to go in the inner part of the eye, like so. I'm going to use the rest of my tubing mascara from Tarte. This is really great. And I'm also going to tightline as well. And I've been using a brown eyeliner, which is something a little bit different, to tightline. And this is the Sephora collection. This is the 12-Hour Colorful Crayon in the shade Tiramisu number 13. And it looks like this. It's the waterproof eyeliners. And it is just a dark, like chocolatey brown. So I'm going to tightline with this mascara, and then we'll be complete. So now that the eyes are complete, I need to do some final touches that I do all the time. The first thing is taking the Airbrush Brightening Flawless Powder from Charlotte Tilbury, and it's a light powder. I'll show you. This is in the fair medium, and I take a small brush. This is the Real Techniques setting brush, and I take just a little bit of that powder and I just kind of go underneath, and this helps to not only brighten the under eye area, but it also helps remove any bit of fallout that I may have had through applying eyeshadow. I don't have that issue really hardly ever with the Surratt eyeshadows, so I do like taking that underneath the eye to help with that, and around the nose, a little bit on the chin, and through the center of the forehead. And so then I have to lock everything in place with the Airbrush Flawless Setting Powder, also from Charlotte Tilbury, and I like to take just a little bit of this, tap out any little droplets, which it's very, very rare when you get any sort of drops with that spray. It's such a good setting spray, and it actually does work. I do want to add a little bit of a gloss to my lips, so I thought, why not add a little bit of the Infused lip oils from the Ulta Beauty brand. This is in the shade 366, and it's got a subtle tint, but it's not really going to show up, and it's going to give me a more juicier, fuller lip. Okay, so then we are done. That's it. That is the full completed look, start to finish. Some really great products, just really beautiful formulas. The eyeshadow is really nice. There is a little bit of some color there, a little bit of a sparkly kind of look without being super chunky, glittery, and just too much on the eye. It's very sophisticated the way these colors and formulas come together, which is why I love that quad so much. And I did everything. I went through all the steps of my routine, and I didn't skip anything. I didn't kind of pull back on anything. The only thing different was that I didn't actually use a foundation product today, a liquid foundation like I normally do. I wear foundation every day, but from time to time, it's just nice to kind of take a step back from that and do something lighter, something just a little bit more fresh. And I feel like this is like my summertime routine. So I do appreciate you so much for being here, for tuning in, and for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and we can be friends and chat on Instagram. And it's always going to pop up on the screen. Hopefully I'll see you there. I'll catch you in my next video. Take care, you guys, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.